Okay, we're going to start up the computer and get our welcome screen. There we see at the bottom, press delete to run the setup. So we'll press delete and it will cycle through some startup here. And camera's auto-focusing, pardon that. Here we go. There's the BIOS setup utility for American Megatrends AMI. And that's the information screen. Then here's the advanced settings. This is what we're principally going to be working on. Each of these has sub-items underneath. We'll open this one and show you there. Different choices under each one of those. Altogether there's 100 or so. And let's take a look.
To set the BIOS options, first we start with Quick Boot and Quiet Boot. Both are disabled. And you can enable them later once you're sure that your system is running stably and correctly. Add on ROM, keep current. Boot and unlock, on. PS2 mouse support, auto. Wait for F1 if error, I have disabled that. Hit delete message, enable. Interrupt 19 capture, enable. Watchdog function, we disabled it. Hardware on the motherboard, so we have it disabled also in the BIOS. Power button function, instant off, restore on AC power loss to the last state. Resume on RTC alarm, disabled. GART, we don't need GART, disabled. Microcode update, enabled. That allows us to update the BIOS. Secure virtual machine mode, disabled. We are not using virtual machines of any kind here, no boxes, no anything like that. Power now, enabled. Power cap, P state 0, that's the fastest speed. CPU down core mode, we've disabled, although if you wanted to save power, you could certainly enable that and it would reduce power usage when you're not using the cores. C1E support is enabled. Clock speed spectrum, we have disabled. That's for a European purpose, I believe, and we don't need that. Bank interleaving auto, node interleaving. This is important. We use NUMA on, but this gave less Geekbench speed numbers with this disabled. If we enable node interleaving, in other words, NUMA is off, the entire memory is pooled for use by all of the cores. That might provide better performance in video rendering. One would have to try that. There's another setting that goes along with node interleaving we'll get to in a minute. Channel interleaving auto, CS sparring, disabled. Power down enable, enabled. Bank swizzle mode, important to prevent crashes, that is enabled. ECC mode, of course we have ECC memory, that's on basic with the least scrubbing. DRAM time configuration auto, HT speed support auto. IOMMU is disabled. OHCI enabled. And USB 2 controller mode is enabled. You might have a US 3 controller mode option. Please enable that if you do. Legacy USB support, that's auto. Just in case I plug in something USB 1, who knows. Onboard PCI IDE controller, that's disabled. I have no IDE in this system. Onboard SATA is enabled. SATA type is AHCI. That's what we like for our solid-state drives, AHCI. IDE combined mode's not present. There is no parallel ATA. That's not present. Clear non-volatile RAM. No. Plug-and-play OS. No. Linux is not a plug-and-play OS system. Windows might be, but Linux is not. We're using Linux. PCI latency timer 64. You might play with that. That's a good stable number, default. You could go faster, you could go slower, so long as there's no collisions, and I don't even know how you find that out. PCI ID Busmaster disabled. Linux has its own bus IDE drivers, DMA drivers. ROM scan ordering onboard first, PCIe slots all enabled. I think we're using almost all of them anyway. Onboard LAN, ROM select PXE, doesn't matter to me. We're not running this as a server. Onboard LAN enabled. I use one. There is another onboard LAN 2 I have disabled. I only have one wire going to my router. Maybe I could have 2 in the future. Boot graphic priorities off board. Of course, that's the Vita card we put in. Serial 1 address disabled. Serial 2, forget about it. Remote access disabled. CPU overheat alarm. Yes, I want an early alarm. Thank you. Protect my hardware. Fan speed modes balanced. Now, you could get more cooling, higher performance with another setting here, but there will be more noise. So you can get a lot more fan, but you're going to sacrifice quietness. PS2 keyboard, mouse wake up enabled. ACPI wear, oh yes. ACPI support enabled. Headless mode disabled. We have a monitor and keyboard mouse here, so we are not using this as a headless server. We are using this as a workstation. Headless mode disabled. APCI versions, yes, we're on number 3. That's the latest and greatest. NUMA support enabled. Again, if we used interleaving, we would disable this. Those two settings have to go together. The Windows health is enabled. TCG support, no. BMC watchdog timer, we hardware disabled it, and we will disable it to match here in the BIOS. Boot sector virus protection disabled. I don't believe that we need that here. Boot device priority, you'll set that up in your settings. We'll show you in just a minute. Retry boot devices enabled. Save changes and exit. And that's it. Now let's look at how setting boot devices is.